welcome back to the King of the Bean. I am your host for this week, Ian.
No way!
This is Ryan.
Yay!
And this is Josh.
Most days.
What about today?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this week we're going to talk about a long-awaited topic on this podcast.
Yeah, long-awaited.
Well, I know one of my friends who watches, he's like, I really want to know your guys' thoughts. So, we're going to talk about video games this week.
Alright.
So, I would like to start us off with...
We have no knowledge about this.
No.
We never play games in our lives.
Never have, never will.
So, I want to start off by talking
violence.
about our introduction into video games and, like, what got us started. So, I will start because mine was probably the saddest. No, not actually sad. But,
Where are you going with this?
Yeah, I don't know either.
the first ever video game that I remember playing was not fun for me. So the reason we were introduced to video games is because our dad was at a conference in Boston, Massachusetts, which is on the other side of the country. Mom was taking us, and he was gonna stay longer than like his work thing to take a little vacation. So Mom was gonna bring her 2 6-year-olds to across the country so that we could like explore Boston and stuff. So Mom was like, I need something to entertain them. So we got our very first Game Boy Advance.
Game Boy Advance, yep.
I had a purple one.
I had the clear one that you could see the circuitry for.
And we went to Toys R Us.
Yes, we did.
Because that's where we got games back then. And we were told we got to pick out one game, right? Two games. I don't remember what my second one was, unless it was also Mario.
It was, yeah.
But,
I remember.
so for my game, I picked... So, you know, you're 6 years old. A lot of gifts at the time we got were Legos. Well, they had a Lego video game, and I was like, that seems so cool. Now when I think about it, I'm like, the process of using up, down, left, right, A, B to put Legos together doesn't make sense. But as a 6-year-old, I was like, oh my god, Legos! So that was game number 1.
Yeah.
Game number 2 was Super Mario Bros.
It was the Super Mario 2. Super Mario Advance.
Super Mario Advance.
Yeah.
So, you know, my little 6-year-old self was sitting on a plane. You know, not the best reading skills at the time. That game had so much reading and dialogue. It was not
a Lego building game. It was this game where you were just like a Lego guy in a Lego city, and you had to like go around and talk to people and get like objects to unlock more places.
And you had like complete like missions to get pieces to build the city or whatever.
It was so weird.
And
it's not a kid's game.
I'm just like maybe for like 10 and up.
Maybe,
but
like,
it was not
boring.
Yeah, it was boring. Highly unrecommended as a first video game.
Yeah.
But that's why I say it was the saddest introduction, because you think of video games, you're like, oh, this is fun, like it's games, right? That game was not.
Conversely, I got a game that I had forgot of, but that I put on my list, Super Mario World, which is the one where you can play as Mario and Luigi and you get Yoga. I love Super Mario World. That is to this day still one of my favorite games. It's on my honorable mentions list because I forgot about it. And definitely one of my favorite Mario games, like up there with Super Mario Sunshine.
Love
as
Sunshine.
Probably my favorite Mario game of all time. I love Super Mario World. I'll still go back and play it because it's just such a fun game. Yeah. Really cool. I love the graphics of it. Like on the Game Boy, it was like colorized so nicely, and yeah, you can ride Yoshi and you can eat things, and they had the whole Star World. Like it was just such a fun game.
So part of my frustration with the Lego game is being like,
Star Worlds.
I'm struggling over here, and this guy's just like, yay!
It was awesome. Super Mario World is fantastic.
So we're sitting on this plane, right?
You get the cape and you get boing, 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 boing.
We're on this plane, right? In the row of 3. Mom's in the middle. I'm over here. Ryan's over there. And I'm just like struggling. And then I look over because I'm like, is he also having problems with this contraption? And no, he's just like, yay!
Freaking blast.
And I'm like, well, you suck.
And because it was fun, like the game was hard too, like because it was still kind of old school. Yeah. So like there was puzzles and like I would die a lot, but it was fun. It was a fun Mario game. And my second game was Mario Kart.
But the thing about Mario is that Mario's very intuitive, and like you kind of just learn as you go. There didn't used to be like a tutorial or anything to teach you about the mechanics. You would figure it out as you go, and
there kind of was built into the first few levels of the game. There's like
it's
text boxes
built in, but it doesn't really tell you. It gives you the freedom to figure it out.
Yeah.
And with Lego, it's like very structured and everything. And as a kid, you don't want the
As an
stuff.
adult, I don't want that. I know we've talked about this before, but this is a problem
It
I
gets
have
really annoying.
with newer games, especially newer Pokemon games. Has been big, and I know we talked about this, so I'm not gonna get into it. But that was something I loved about old school Pokemon games: is you go in the world and you just explore. They tell you, here's what a Pokemon is. Here's a ball you capture them with. Good luck, kid, and you have to explore and figure it out. And now a lot of days it's like really directive of go here, talk to this person, do this, and it's like that's not what I want.
Well,
that's not what this game is about. This game is about exploring.
Well, and it's probably great for newer generations just learning it, but like for somebody who's played since like yellow version,
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I understand what I'm supposed to do here. You're not adding any fundamental changes.
Well, and to me, the point is to explore. It is to figure it out. Like, figure out what is the new Pokemon. How do I get through this obstacle? What do I do here? How do I beat this person? Like, that's the fun of it. I don't want to be told how to do it. And that ties into a lot of the games I have on my list that are fun to me is because I love that aspect of games, exploring.
So what was your introduction into the world of video games?
So my introduction was my brothers, because my brothers were very big gamers. Art was a very big gamer, so me and Johnny, my brother who's only 2 years older than me, would like have like a bunch of these games that are available to us for like the NES and whatever, because they had that. The NES, they had the NES, you had the Nintendo 64, they had the Sega Genesis.
We started with Game Boy.
Yeah, but they had all these old school ones, and I remember I don't know if it was my first game, but the very first game that I remember ever playing was on the NES. It's the giant cartridge things, blow on it to make sure it works. Put it in, didn't work. Bring it out, load it again, and it works.
You get those cans of air compressor.
No, you blew on it.
Yeah, you blew on it.
If you're not blowing on it, it's not working.
Yeah, there's a system.
Well, I mean, some people had that. Like you were like bougie if you had a compressed
Yeah,
air
to
like
thing. Yeah, but and I put it in, and the very first game that I remember playing was Mega Man X.
I love Mega Man X. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. You got hit.
I gotta put Mega Man on here.
You got put into the world, you're in the city, whatever.
You got a gun.
You got a blaster. It's a blaster. And you go.
The Mega Blaster, thank you.
And you're just blasting things on your little side scrolling thing.
Dude, Mega Man games are friggin' great.
You get
friggin' hard.
Yeah, you get to the first boss, which is apparently you can never win or whatever. You get to meet X, who has this red suit and blonde hair. Z. And red suit and blonde hair. Alright. And then you get sent to the overworld where you're just like, okay, fight these guys. And you can do them in any order. Always fought the penguin first, obviously. Because the penguin gave you the boots to make you dash around.
You can go any, but there is like technically like the correct way to fight the bosses, and that's for all Mega Man games.
Yeah, but you always go penguin first because you want to get the dash boots so you can just.
You gotta go fast.
Yeah, you gotta go fast places. But yeah, that was my first introduction. And I remember playing that game. I think my very first memory was like playing that, getting to the penguin guy, beating him, and then I would go directly to the lizard guy. I was like, oh, he's grass, and you know, I could just freeze the ice.
Grass, and you gotta mow it.
I could just freeze the ice.
Because that was the thing too. Is like elementals did kind of matter. Like there was like elemental affinities in those games.
Yeah, a little bit. Not so much, but enough to be like, okay, you kind of logic your way into it. In a sense.
But it didn't hurt to not use the right element, but I know if you use like the fire against like the ice, you would do more
a lot of damage to it. Yeah, but yeah, never beat it as a kid, and as a grown up, I'm like, God, this thing is hard. Yeah. The controls are janky.
Dude, those games were hard. All the old Mega Man games and stuff were really hard, but so much fun. Same with Metroid games. Yes. Oh, I love Metroid games. I'm not gonna write that on the list.
So since you said you had an NES, what consoles did you have, like, from your first console till now? Like, what have you owned?
I had a Sega, I had an NES, I had a Super Nintendo.
Dang, you had all of them.
Well, because they were all my brothers.
Yeah.
The perks of having older siblings.
Yeah. And then, as we grew up, we got the GameCube, we had an Xbox, we never got to PlayStation. Then we got the Wii, that was whatever, Wii U, and kind of stuck.
The Wii was great.
Wii was great. The Wii U was kind of whatever.
And we kind of stuck with that, and then that was pretty much it. And then
Switch.
Because Wii.
Then computer.
What handhelds did you have?
Switch.
I had a Game Boy Color.
Color.
Nice.
What color?
Green.
Nice.
Because that was my brother's.
Was it the lime green?
Yeah, because it was my brother's. And his favorite color is green.
Yeah, that's a clear.
Yeah. And then we had a regular Game Boy that didn't have colors.
Right.
Big bulky
The
ones.
old Game Boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then we had not the DS, the Game Boy Advance, which we specifically only play. No, the Game Boy Advance had 2 games that I play on. Donkey Kong Country.
That game was so freaking hard.
Loved it.
Never beat it.
It's great.
That stupid Mine Track level.
Yeah, it's infamous. Donkey Kong Country was also the only game that I remember my brother's wife ever playing. She loved that game.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah, she loved that game. She was great at the game.
It was hard. I never beat the minecart level.
Yeah. And then I had Secrets of Mana. Or Sword of Mana. It was Sword of Mana.
Never played it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Mana series? Great.
Yeah.
Great.
That was like an RPG.
Yeah. You get to play as one of 2 protagonists. You can be the hero or the heroine. I always chose the heroine because, fabulous. But they had slightly different stories too if you go about them too. It was great. Handhelds?
Yeah.
Went to DS. I think that's the next one.
You didn't have the SP?
No.
Did you have the original DS?
I had a bulky one, yeah. And then I got the DS, the newer version.
The
So,
Lite or whatever.
so they had DS, they had DS Lite, they had DSi,
and
then they had 3DS.
I had a 3DS was the last handheld. I had the Legend of Zelda one
Yeah,
too.
same.
The golden one.
Yeah.
With the Triforce.
It was awesome.
Because it was cool. I
Yes.
remember going to the store to buy that too because it was Frank and Edgar because they wanted to get that. And it's like, yeah, we're going to get the new DS because it has the Legend of Zelda. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll just join you guys. You know, I wasn't thinking about buying it or whatever. And then I looked and it's like, that is a really cool looking DS.
Yeah, I'm not even like a huge Zelda fan, but that 3DS is really cool.
Yeah.
It was all black with like gold.
No, I had the 3DS version of that one. Mine was all gold with like the Triforce on in the middle of it. Yeah.
Oh, you had the fancier one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had. Oh, because it was 3DS.
Was that
too.
the regular DS?
No, that was the one that I got was 3DS.
Because we got the
'cause
3DS
we had the
too, but it was
3DS too.
black, and then the design was all in gold.
Yeah, it's in the.
That's the one you've
it's
seen in my drawer.
Yeah.
It's in the living
There's
room.
2 in there?
There's in the living room. There's one.
No, because mine's in that drawer.
That's the one I'm talking about. Mine is somewhere else.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because so our evolution of system is we started with the Game Boy Advance. We never had a color, but our cousin had one, and that's where he first let us play Pokemon Yellow. And then we went to Game Boy Advance SP. I had a red one.
I had a blue one. Cobalt blue.
And then
No, Xbox was first.
Xbox was not first.
OG Xbox was before SP. That was like
before
third
SP.
grade.
I thought you were saying before Advance.
No.
But
Advance was first, and then Xbox, and
I was
then
going
SP.
handheld. But
okay.
okay, if you want to get technical, so we had Game Boy Advance, Xbox, Game Boy Advance SP,
Xbox 360.
and Xbox 360, and then we also had we got a DS Lite was the first one that we had.
Yeah,
we never had the bulky
chunky
one. Then we had a DSi, which was really cool because you had the camera and everything.
Yeah, I remember when we went to Disneyland for like a band trip or
Yeah,
something. Timmy brought it, and he was always just taking pictures of everything, like on the rides. Like he took a picture of the Yeti.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, you're gonna lose that.
Because I was Timmy and I were put in, because that was back on the Matterhorn. You could see 2 people in like 1 seat.
Sure.
So he was sitting with me, and then Ryan was with our friend Austin,
right
and
there with
we were in the front, and I was like really worried about Timmy holding his DSi up to like take pictures.
He had it on every ride, never dropped it.
But is that where they introduced like the Miiverse, and there was that one Mii game where you could like battle the dragon?
It was
and all
either
that
or
stuff?
3DS. It might have been 3DS.
Because that was really cool, and then also the Street Pass.
Yeah, that was
and
3DS.
when
Street Pass was great.
When you randomly found like a Nintendo employee and they had the gold pants.
Yeah.
And you would get like
That was
+5
pretty
or whatever.
fun.
That was like a fun side thing that just came with the system.
Yeah.
It's like fucking. You guys never played. You guys should definitely play this because it's a great game called Bravely Default.
Yes, I did. I love that game.
Great game. Default has a system where you basically set up a village, and since it's on the DS, whatever, the village you get a set amount of like 10 or whatever from the very beginning, and the way you get more is through Street Pass. So as you're just going about people, you get more villagers because of Street Pass or whatever. And with that, you can make you can build up your village greater, and you get benefits.
But I love the whole street pass system and everything, because you get to find people everywhere. Like when we traveled, we get to meet people from like, you know, Texas, or you'd see somebody that was also traveling because it'd say they were from here, but you met them in like Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. We never went to Wisconsin. I don't know why I chose that.
There's several states you could have chosen.
But yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then he had an Xbox One.
Yes.
We also had the Wii and the Wii U. We would play GameCube at our cousin's house.
We would also play GameCube when we found out you could play GameCube games on the Wii.
That was so revolutionary.
Our life.
Oh, yeah.
Because then we just went to GameStop and got all the games. Because they were in the like $5 bin and we're like, oh, yeah!
There was this really cool like Yu-Gi-Oh game where it wasn't cards, it was more...
Oh, it was like, it was like a monster.
It was more like a Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh game.
That game was really cool. I don't remember what it was called, but it was awesome. But then we got to play Sunshine, and we got to play like Luigi's Mansion and all like the cool GameCube games. Because that was revolutionary. It's like, you can backward compatible with GameCube? It was awesome.
It was really cool.
Do you remember what game our Xbox came with?
I remember it was Star Wars.
The Clone Wars one.
Clone Wars game where you played as those ships.
Yeah, so
and you got to shoot each other.
This was before the Clone Wars TV show came out. So this was OG Clone Wars. Like the the guy who Jendi whatever. The guy who made freaking the guy who did Dexter's Lab did his own version of the Clone Wars, which was awesome. I like that more than the other one, if you ask me. But anyway, so this was a Clone Wars, and you played as the ships. It was like a tank battle game. So
it was like Battlefront, but you're all tanks.
You're all tanks. It was honestly like really kind of cool, and it was different, and it was hard, and there wasn't a lot of levels.
And our second game was Crash Bandicoot. Because we would have to take turns playing it.
Yeah.
So, and Mom would only give us like maybe an hour a day, or to even it off, we'd take 30-minute intervals. So it's like, Ryan will get to play for 30 minutes. Once that timer goes off, I'm like, give me that! And then I'd play, and then the timer would go off again, and he'd be like, no, I
gotta do one more. No, let me finish the level.
Gotta finish the level.
Yeah, you gotta finish the level.
But yeah, so we would play like that. Another game, I was gonna say it later, but since we're talking about it, Pac-Man World 2.
Pac-Man World.
That was the best game.
Xbox, yeah.
We got, I want to say it was like 75% of the way through the game. And then our cousins, so backstory, our cousins were adopted from Russia.
Yeah.
And one of them was like 4 when he came over. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we have an Xbox, we're trying to teach him about video games. I don't know how, but he got access to the Xbox while nobody was watching him. Yeah. He changed the Xbox to Chinese.
Yeah.
And he deleted our whole save data somehow from Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And
we're not
it's like when we film an episode of the podcast and then find out the sound or something was messed up, like we just didn't even want to touch it again.
Yeah.
Like it was just it was ruined.
That was a really cool game.
Max, if you ever watch this, you ruined it.
Okay, we don't blame you.
We don't blame you, but I want you to know what you've done.
You were 4.
You were a child.
But yeah, that was just like such a like
that was a bummer.
Core memory.
That was a bummer for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool Xbox games though.
But yeah, and then we had Wii U, and a Switch.
Which I love the Switch.
The Switch is good.
I think it's great.
There should be Street Pass.
There should be. Of some sort.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Switch 2, please, Nintendo.
Switch 2 coming out in 2025.
Is it?
I think so.
Not this year?
No.
That's sad.
Going for
Especially
that's okay, that gives me time to get money.
Especially because the original Switch came out like 7 years ago.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
Long.
And they haven't released anything. They haven't even really done upgrades except for the OLED.
Yeah.
That was an upgrade though. And they did the Switch Lite.
They did the Switch Lite where the Joy-Cons don't come off.
It was a side grade.
Well, it was a cheaper version.
Yeah, and only handheld. And then they did do like a middle one, I think, that had like a little bit better battery, but I don't think it was super worth it.
But yeah, we need something better.
But Switch is great, revolutionary. I love it.
Also, just make it so that, you know, the games that come out on it can actually play very well. That'd be appreciated.
Yeah, spend more time on your games, please. Nintendo. Looking at you.
And the hardware on your next
system. Especially Game Freak.
Because you make beautiful games, but then your machines can't play it. Anyway,
Yeah.
So I guess we'll take that to segue into what our favorite games are. So who would like to go first?
I would like to go first because
you may go first.
Okay, Josh.
I feel like I will get cut off anyway, so this is my opportunity.
Get it out quick.
I'm
Just have to sneak in these little
So my top games.
Huh?
I know we didn't put the timer on, but
it's okay.
Oh, Josh, look at you.
No, I did that later.
Oh,
when I realized.
Where are we at though? Just curious.
Right now, like it's 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
Way later.
Way later. Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
But okay, so my games.
Okay, so starting at number 5.
Are they in any
They're
particular
not in any
order?
particular order.
Okay.
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's because
Mine's not either.
okay, so I put down BioShock. Love the BioShock series.
BioShock's
It's a great game. Need you to play it. At some
What?
point.
I need
Okay,
to finish playing.
How
it.
many games are in the series?
3.
Yes.
Which
4.
one's your favorite?
Yeah, because BioShock Infinite.
Yeah. Favorite? The first one.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one.
The first one I played part of, and I think I played part of Infinite, and those are the two that I've heard are the best.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, great game. Highly recommend it. Love that game. It was like the very first game that I remember playing from front to back. And I'm just like, oh my god, there's so much to this world. Yes, right?
I have a question.
What is your
Did
question?
you ever play Dishonored?
I did. I love this song.
Very similar to BioShock.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Do you have your Lamb game on your list?
Cult of the Lamb.
No.
Oh.
That game's hilarious.
You played that a lot.
I did play that a lot.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. Next game. Probably the game that I have the most hours on. Binding of Isaac.
Binding of
Oh,
Isaac is
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. The most hours I probably play on with this game.
Can you lean in a little bit more? You're kind of out of frame.
No, you're wrong way.
Okay.
Come to me.
But Binding of Isaac, love the game to death. Have the most hours on that game.
That's a fun game.
Have played because it's a roguelike, so you can just keep
I love
doing
roguelike games.
different
That's
things
why I
over
wish
and
you
over
would
again.
play Risk of Rain 2 with me,
one of these days.
because it's fun.
I feel like that's not my type of game, but
Yeah,
I'm glad that you found something.
but
that-
it's great.
I love those games too.
He just like turns off his brain and is like,
Yeah, it's great.
It's great. Alright, and then another game which holds a sentimental value to my heart now, Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight, yeah.
Because me and Ryan played the hell out of Shovel Knight, and it was a blast.
Yeah.
is that only 2 players?
It's 2
Yeah,
players.
sadly.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like an old. It's not old, but it's made in the style of a retro kind of
Yeah,
like.
8-bit.
And these two would play it while I was working
Yeah.
usually. So I'd be at work because at his last job he had more days off than I did,
Yeah.
and then he wouldn't be working that day or whatever. So I'd be like, "Oh, Ryan, you want to come over?" So we'd have lunch, and then these two would just be giggling and screaming in the other room. While I'm just sad and at work today.
It's not a funny game intentionally.
Nah.
It's like an 8-bit like side scroll platformer, kind of roguelike kind of game. But we would have so much fun with it because we would just die
At the
in
most
the dumbest ways.
dumbest way.
And it'd be like just the most comedic time. Like there was this one time where like Josh died, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna make the jump," and just jump right into
Straight
one. I'm
down.
like, "Well," it would just be like,
Question:
"Yes."
Yeah.
What is a roguelike?
Roguelike means that you don't get the same thing every time.
So it's games that are they're intended for you to die basically,
Yeah.
but when you die you get like coins carry over or whatever to buy upgrades to kind of improve yourself so you can get farther in the game. Sometimes there's an end to the level and you kind of repeat it and it gets harder and harder, and they're like qualifiers like Hades, which you might talk about. Or like Risk of Rain that just kind of goes on forever until you end up dying, and there's certain endpoints, but the point is that you kind of keep
What's
recycling.
a common game that maybe a more casual gaming person might know that is a roguelike? Just to help our audiences understand what you're talking about.
Common game.
I mean,
that's kind of-
Well, Binding of
Binding of
Isaac
Isaac
is a
is-
very popular one.
I would say that
Risk
was
of
the
Rain,
most.
I would say both 1 and 2 are pretty popular.
I would definitely say that Binding of Isaac is the baseline because you
Cult of the Lamb is roguelike.
it is the roguelike
kind
too.
of, but
yeah.
That and Shovel Knight does have progression. Like there are levels that you kind of go
Yeah.
through.
Because roguelike basically is you start a game, you can have a base character, and then you find upgrades throughout the game that make you stronger or whatever, and then you beat the game, whatever, and then you start the game over again, you have the same character, but you find different upgrades, and the different upgrades make the game different.
Did you know there's a Binding of Isaac Rebirth?
Yeah, that's just like the remake.
Oh, is that the one you play?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's Binding of Isaac. There's Binding of Isaac. Rebirth.
Afterbirth.
Look, all I'm realizing is that I've never really played a roguelike.
Ooh, Rogue Legacy 2 is also fun. That's
Rogue
a
Legacy
roguelike.
is great.
Did you ever play that one?
Yeah.
So that one's cool because they frame it in the way of like you go into the dungeon and then when you die, that character is dead.
Yeah.
But then their ancestor, like their kid or whatever, essentially takes over, and so you kind of play through the legacy.
Oh, they say that this one says that Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is considered a roguelike.
I would say that's just more of a dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
Than a roguelike. There's some overlap in those, but they are different.
Well, it specifically says Super Mystery Dungeon, so I don't know how different that is from a regular Mystery Dungeon.
I remember it being the same, but yeah, I like roguelike games.
Yeah,
I'm with you
I
on
do
that.
too.
They're very fun.
Another roguelike game that I had put down, Hades. Love Hades.
I loved Hades. That game was so good.
I never played.
It's so great, and it talks about all the Greek lore, mythology, and all that stuff. So if you're really into the mythology of Greek, great game.
And it's very hard.
Mythology.
Yeah,
it's very hard. Too.
It's very hard. Yeah, and
they're coming out with the second one.
They are finally. And then I have WoW, World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
because it's probably the game that I've played for the longest time frame. Not the most hours, but the longest time frame. Because I played that when they basically first came out in 2006.
And you would say that's not the most hours you put into a game?
No. Because
Because at the same time, he's playing Binding of Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, but because when that came out, because World of Warcraft, for people who don't know, who are not so much gamers, is it's the biggest MMORPG.
Yeah, and it has been for like ever.
Yeah. It
I'm
has.
waiting for Riot Games to make theirs.
That'd be fun whenever they
I
come
hope
out
it's
with
good
that.
whenever that happens.
But yeah, that came out in 2006, and I was a little boy when that happened. So
A wee lad.
And my brothers played it. Specifically, my elder brother Art, who was like 10 years older than me, and I would only play glimpses here and there whenever he let me play it. And you know,
Would you play on his account?
yeah, because you have to
pay.
Yeah, and then eventually, we got to like 2 expansions down, and then I played again with my brother Johnny because he would play with my brother Art, and I'd be like, all right, cool, and then I played a little bit of that, and then I stopped for a long time, and then I came back maybe like 4 expansions later or whatever. So it's a long period of time frame where I just wasn't playing the game, and then I came back to it. And I find
this is WoW hard to come back to after you take a long break?
No, in fact, it's only gotten easier.
I see. That's nice. To segue into my, because that was 5, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any honorable mention? Mention your honorables.
I have the one honorable mention that I put down here because I'm like, I didn't think about it to put on my list, but I remembered it. Pikmin. Love Pikmin.
Pikmin's good.
So, and just to, pick one, what would be your number 1 game of all time?
Of all time? Probably Binding of Isaac.
I respect that.
Yeah.
So to segue off of the MMORPG, I have Perfect World International because that's a game I played from when he introduced it to me. Because so when we first got computers, it was like 8th grade, right? And
between 7th and 8th.
And we got it.
I thought it was 7th grade.
Might have been towards
somewhere in junior high.
But I remember we got our first towers from Dad, and then but mine was having problems, so we like sent mine off to go get fixed and whatnot. And this is when you found Perfect World. And then when I got my computer back, I was like, "Oh, what's that like cool like fantasy game that you play?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this." We never really played together.
He never played with me. Let's re-qualify that.
Not true. But Ryan also didn't like playing with a bunch of. I mean, I remember the first time we played, we joined that one faction. It was called like Nightcore, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I only remember because that's the name of like a music.
Yeah, it was Nightcore.
But yeah, we joined that faction. But Ryan was much more of a loner.
Yeah.
And then, but I kept joining guilds and becoming friends with people and like had more desire to do like end game content and dungeons with people and stuff like that, and he was more of like a do things by himself type of guy.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, I don't have people to do things with. I'm like, well, you.
Well, I also wanted to play with my brother, and he never wanted to play with me.
That's not true.
That's true.
It's okay. I also
But-
want to play with him, but he doesn't want to play.
Yeah. This is why we play together.
Yeah. And then you get upset that we don't invite you. It's like, we
Yeah.
invite you.
You're just like, oh, I'm gonna go play League.
A lot of the games you guys play also just aren't my type of thing.
And that's fair.
That's
But
fine.
we do give out the invitations because we
Yeah.
want to play with you.
Yeah, we do.
But you also want to play things I don't want to play.
That sucks because we want to play.
But you also are not always open to trying new things.
But
And I don't like League.
if we do a gaming channel,
I'll
Can you
do
play
it for
League?
that, but I'm
Okay.
gonna play Misfortune and I'm gonna have a bad time.
Don't worry, I'll support you. We'll
I was
have a
gonna
great
say,
time
you
down
can
there.
go down with him.
Yeah, we'll have a great time.
Yeah, we will have a great time. We always do.
We'll have a great time. He'll be over there flaming
Yeah,
someone and be like,
Yeah, you
"This
go
guy."
try hard, and I'm gonna go shoot people and have fun with Josh.
But okay, so
I'll play a fast guy. He's like, look how fast I'm going, Frank.
I'm like, whoa! We'll just run around.
yeah. But I will say that so Perfect World was a game where they would also have like a lot of expansions, usually 2 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After a while it'd be
2 a year.
Or no, that's
Maybe
probably
one-
it.
Well, they'd have like one big one.
There'd be a big
generally.
expansion and then maybe like a follow up like thing,
Sure,
or
okay.
like what would happen because it was a Chinese game and the international version was for the rest of us. Is something would release in China and then we get it later, but we wouldn't always get the whole thing.
Mhm.
And then,
Gotcha.
so they'd break it up.
Gotcha.
But in that game, if you weren't continuously playing and came back to the game after a couple years, you were so behind.
Yeah.
At least until you got to end game at one point, and then, you'd be missing stuff, but it wasn't as detrimental.
Yeah. No,
But it was so hard to stay caught up, which is part of the reason me and my friends all left, is because, we're too busy to do this now. We're not in high school or college where you have all that free time
Mhm.
to move away from our studies and into video games. So it was
Free
a lot.
time.
It was a lot harder to keep up. So it's nice that WoW doesn't have that. And then so for number 4, I have the Pokemon franchise
Oh yeah.
because Pokemon's such like a staple in my video game
Same.
life. Along
I would say the same.
I've played every Pokemon game that I could think of.
played every Pokemon game.
Not everyone to full. Sun and Moon.
Sun and Moon, I
I
did
played
not
through
get
it once and I couldn't do it again.
I
It's
did
way
not
too much freaking time.
get very far in that game. But
Diamond and Pearl, best one.
what system
Next
was
to
Sun and Moon
Emerald.
for?
That was
Emerald was
3DS.
good.
3DS.
Yeah.
Emerald, great.
Emerald, great.
Diamond and Pearl.
You know what I
nice.
really like too? The remake, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
Me too,
Like
me
those
too.
were great
I don't remember
remakes.
the specifics.
Those
of what
were
made
great.
It different from the
The
original.
graphics.
It was just graphic wise. I'm like, hell yeah.
Well,
we're
but
here.
also at the end, you probably don't remember, but you could fly on the Latios,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and you can
the
go
Omega.
and like find legendary Pokemon, and you can just
Yeah,
fly
yeah,
around
yeah.
easier. Like it was just they added more megas,
They did.
which is the best Pokemon gimmick. Mega evolutions, please bring those back, Game
They're
Freak.
not.
What do you mean they're not?
They're not.
They're not the. Oh, I thought you said they're not the best. I'm like, Josh, we're gonna fight right now.
Like, I'm about to take out my earrings.
Hold 'em! But yeah, that
Give
was
me
a
your
good
brass
one.
knuckles.
Fine.
But yeah,
But yeah,
Pokemon great.
Pokemon.
love Pokemon.
Part of the reason we got into it was
Was
what
We're about to find.
was the TV show, like
Yeah.
just watching that too.
Mhm.
I saw this clip recently. Ash was a savage back then. Like
Oh yeah.
he was almost always insulting Misty
Oh, I
and
know.
calling her ugly.
Yeah.
Like she'd be like, "Oh, there's 2 beautiful people," and he'd be like, "I only see one here."
Yeah,
great.
I've seen that.
And I'm just like, "Oh my god!" But so that's what we grew up with.
Yeah.
But yeah, just seeing that, like I have my Pikachu collection gifted by this guy. So yeah, just special place in my
I
heart.
love
love
Still
Pokemon.
play Violet, even though I have problems.
And
with
you
it.
used to get such cool things for like pre-ordering the games too. Like we pre-ordered X and Y, and we got that cool poster
yeah.
that goes through all the generations. And like yesterday, I was talking about it with your brothers because it fell down while you guys went to go get pizza, and it fell down, and we were talking about it, and they're like, "Yeah, we actually did have red and blue." And I was like, "Oh, my first intro was yellow because our
Yellow,
cousin gave it to
yeah.
us." And he had beaten the game and had these level 100 Pokemon, but he didn't have a Pikachu. So I deleted the save file.
You're that
Because-
kid.
Because I wanted the Pikachu. Because Pikachu was also the only one that gets to follow you around. And after watching the TV show, I was like, I want the Pikachu.
Sure.
He had like this level 100 Butterfree and Alakazam. And back then, Alakazam was not easy to get because you actually trade somebody.
Had friends. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, well, screw that. I want Pikachu. And I remember the first time we did have the Pikachu, and we were leveling him up. Based on the TV show, we thought agility was the super cool move, right? Because he'd be like, Pikachu, use agility, and he'd like bounce everywhere and then do damage, right?
It was like a better quick attack.
Yeah. So
it's awesome.
We deleted like a pretty good move like Thunderbolt or something to learn agility, and like you've already beat the game, and then you use agility and it's just like Pikachu speed grows or whatever, and you're like, yeah, what does that mean, and why didn't he die?
Turns out Pikachu is not the best Pokemon in the game, contrary to what the anime will tell you.
But yeah, so that was funny, but Pokemon's there. And then the next game I put, it's probably my, actually not true, but one of my favorite single player games of all time is Super Mario Galaxy. I just love that. I love the space theme, and it was done very well in like 3D platforming. So yeah, that was really cool. And then Ryan would get to join me sometimes and play as a little star, the Luma, and he'd help collect gems and stuff like that.
Star bits. That's true.
Star bits. Yeah. But yeah, and I think that's the first single player game that I really played solo. Cause like KOTOR, we would switch off or play together, which is number 2 on my list. It's Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Yes, I put them both also.
And it was a great storytelling game, but we would play it together. Super Mario Galaxy was really fun because that was like the first one that I completed. Yes. The whole thing pretty much by myself.
He is not much of a single player kind of guy, whereas I
really not. I enjoy the company of others. But you wanted to say something?
No, I'll talk about it when I talk about KOTOR.
Okay. And then for number 1, partially because I have to, but I do really love the game. What frustrates me is any team, any team thing where you have to rely on other people and they're not doing necessarily what is the right thing at the moment. But League of Legends, it's a 5v5. What's it called? Battle Royale? No. What? MOBA.
Yeah.
Multiplayer online battle arena.
Yeah. Don't at me like that.
It's battle arena.
Yeah, it's like I'm with you.
Yeah, but I said the wrong thing. You didn't correct me before I said the wrong thing.
Because I couldn't remember either.
Oh,
yeah,
got
I was trying to think also. I'm like, what is he trying to say? Team fight? You already said that. That works.
But, yeah, so it is cool because I do like being part of a team, and also there's just so many different, like, ways to, like, theory craft, and, like, there is a lot of strategy. Is also just pure mechanics and beating other people up. But I also do like competition. So, a lot more than these two.
This man loves competition. And gets so frustrated when I beat him in something that I do not care about.
Yeah. I'm not a competitive person, so I don't play competitive games.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true, though. Because we used to play. You remember all those Naruto fighter games that would play each other and then get really angry over it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
maybe toss some controllers around.
Maybe, but that's the thing too that I learned.
Allegedly,
is like I can get really into something, and then I get angry, and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So I don't put myself in those situations to play those games that make me really mad. Even when I'm playing, because there's a game on this list particularly that is notoriously very difficult. And sometimes you gotta turn it off and walk away.
See, but I do like those games more because I do like the challenge.
See,
but
I
it's
have
really
games on my list that I
failing all the time.
I feel that for, but it's not in a I'm fighting someone else capacity. It's the game itself and the is challenging. And I like that challenge. That's something I really like. Like with Pokemon, since we were talking about, like I've been doing the 6-star raids by myself, trying to find one because I enjoy the challenge of trying to do that, and then the feeling great about it. But that's not me trying to fight someone else who's maybe better than me or maybe cheating or whatever. That makes me mad and like I lose my control. It's like, oh, I just need to figure out how to
lose my control.
No, lose my control. I said, right, like in this situation or whatever. Of like, it's just, I need to figure out how I can do this better. And I enjoy that sort of challenge. Instead of other people getting in the way. Because, like, I would play, like, Battlefront 2, like, the newer ones, with a friend of mine, and I would get so mad sometimes. Because, like, people freaking cheating and whatever. Like, I'm just not as good. And I don't care to be because I'm not going to play this game for 10 hours a day. Like, I just want to have fun with my friends.
See, League is also the first game for me where I'm like, I actually wanted to work to improve. Like, I would watch all these tutorials and stuff, learning to be better. And that's how what helped me get to Diamond. Because I'm like, my mechanics might not be the best. And this is also what I like about it, is you don't have to be, like, mechanically gifted, per se. I will say my mechanics have gotten pretty good. But, like, just knowledge of the game takes you very far.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I like it. And then while also having knowledge of the game, there is all the mechanics and getting better at that, but also a lot of, like, just strategy and, like, min-maxing.
Well, I like that too, but I like that in the sense of it's not against someone else.
I've also just learned I'm not a casual player of anything.
I think I can switch back and forth. I'm not a competitive person, but I can get into something.
But, like, even my friends are like this too. Like, you know, we're playing Lethal Company right now, and they're definitely the type of people that's like, you have to figure out everything about this game to be the most efficient and be the best at it. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, we're really, like, not the type of people that are just like, you know, just like figuring stuff out, which is much more of your friend group.
Yeah. We're here to have a great time.
And I think I'm in the middle of the two, because I think at the end of the day, for me, having fun is why we play games.
Yes.
And if it's not fun, then why am I playing this game?
But I think a lot, especially in, like, my friend group and stuff, a lot of that fun is figuring that stuff out.
Yeah, and I think that's valid too.
And min-maxing.
I'm just saying,
like that.
for me, that doesn't come from playing against other people.
Yeah.
But I mean, cooperative or single player.
Because, like, in Lethal Company, it's a cooperative thing that's not against the person.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, like, but, like, the two don't always mesh well. Like, I don't think your friends and my friends could play Lethal Company together.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I struggle to play with your friends sometimes, too, because, like, there were so many times I died when I didn't have to die because 3 people would just run away when anything happens, and I'm like, if we would have just hit the thing with the shovel all together, we would have been fine. But you guys scream and ran the other direction, and now I'm dead again.
Listen, this is why I do very well in those situations, because I am very good at beating myself, because I've been in those situations too many times.
Yeah.
You see, Josh's thing too is, like, he never expects anything about anybody. He's like, I'll take care of everything myself. Yeah, and my idea is always like, you know, we're a team, we're gonna do this together, and then when the other person doesn't do what I expect or whatever,
you get upset.
It's frustration. It's not upset.
I think it depends on the context.
But yeah, it's just like, why did you, like, the crawler fell down on my head and I'm suffocated and you run away and I'm like, the thing's on me. Hit the thing.
That did happen to you once, and you're like, help me. It's like, I have no weapons. You're dead.
Well, in that situation is one thing. But when 3 people have a shovel and can do something and choose instead to scream and run the opposite direction, and then I die because of it, that didn't have to happen. Use your shovel, hit the thing, we're good.
Yeah.
Why is this a problem? It happened 3 times. That was really annoying to me. What's your next one? How far are you?
That was my list.
Oh, okay. Alright. Do you have any honorables you want to mention?
My honorable mention was Pac-Man World 2.
Okay.
And then Party Games will do next.
Okay. All right.
But, yeah.
So my list is different from their lists.
Hopefully.
The first one I'm gonna mention, and this is in no particular order. The first one is just Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. We played that game. It was on Xbox. It was early on.
Can I shout out another honorable mention that we played together?
Yeah.
Star Wars Lego.
Oh, Lego Star Wars was so much fun.
That was so much fun, and the original games were so good, right?
The first 2 or 3 were fantastic.
And, like, I remember, so we had one of the neighbors down the street, she would come babysit us sometimes, and there was this pod racing level that was so hard, and even she was struggling for a bit. Yeah. And then it was just, like, mom and dad went to back to school night, she came over, we had, like, pizza or something, McDonald's probably. Yeah. And we were playing this game in the playroom, and it was just so much fun.
It was like, have you guys seen that picture of, like, it's like a bunch of kids, it was like from like the 80s or whatever, crowding around their mom who was like playing the original Super Mario and beating it for the first time? That was like us with her. Like, she's like trying to do this pod racing thing, and you and I were like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And it was, that
so committed.
That was one of the games that we played together, and we had so much fun.
The saddest thing is, so I wanted to relive that with Josh and play Lego Star Wars
by myself too. Yeah.
And so we he bought Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga.
I did too, and it was extremely
disappointing. They changed that game so much. They changed all the levels. It was
really not. It was so disappointing.
It was such a waste of money.
Like, oh, that's cool. Like, we could do the. Not.
Did we buy that on Steam?
I think so.
Did we play less than 2 hours? Can you get a refund?
No, the statute of limitations over.
Yeah. We should have gotten a refund.
Oh well.
I think I got it on Switch, and I was really sad with it.
But yeah, that game was a rip-off.
But the original, the first one, the second one, and then they did like a complete one
do
at
a
the time.
complete saga.
Because the first game was episodes 1, 2, and 3, I think.
And then they added 7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
and
no, it's 4, 5, 6, and then they added, right?
Well, I mean, like, so I think the one we bought was the Skywalker Saga.
That's what it was. Yeah. So there was the original one, the second one, and then the complete one, which had the first 6 movies, and then I think some extra stuff. And that one was so much fun. Just the amount of characters you could play as, the mechanics.
It was silly.
It was fun. It was really fun. Yeah, that's a great one.
So, you know, if it's ever free on Epic Games, we should play it.
Sure. Back to your list.
Yeah, so Knights of the Old Republic is the first one. That one is pivotal for me as an individual, I feel like. One is really what sparked my love for Star Wars, and I think Ian too, because it takes place thousands of years before the movies take place.
It's so much deeper and richer lore.
Yeah, and it's removed from whatever you know, but it's still Star Wars. There's Jedi, but it's a different time period, and it really does get into the world and to this universe and explaining things, and you get to really immerse yourself. And the story itself was really cool. Like, it was a really well-written story, really interesting characters, like, so many cool characters in that cast to play as. The twist in the middle, like, I didn't see coming when we first play it. And even, I feel like the first couple times, like, I didn't even really understand it because the way the twist was revealed was really kind of, like, subtle. But very Star Wars, right? Like, it definitely reminded me of, like, Empire Strikes Back and the twist at the end of that.
Spoiler alert.
You don't know the twist at the end of Empire. But like it was something like that too, where it was really subtle. It was just like a line, and it's like, oh, whoa, and then everything. It's just such a great game. And the second one is great too because it continues on that story, but it is different characters. It takes place like maybe 10 years later, different cast of characters, but still expands on the same lore and the same time period. But you get to go to different places and see different things. And in terms of gameplay, like they added more force powers and more combat stuff. And so they like expanded on what they had.
The combat system was really cool too.
Yeah, because it was very like turn-based and like RPG style, like very Dungeons and Dragons style kind of. But it was really cool, and it was just like, to me, that's Star Wars. Like,
yeah,
that's Star Wars.
Quintessential.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
So Knights of the Old Republic definitely, and I think that's also what sparked for me like a love of like narrative-based stuff.
Good
and, like,
narrative.
Getting into lore and like storytelling, because that is just like masterclass in it. And honestly, even though it was like a early 2000s Xbox game, like you could play it on a computer, the graphics aren't bad.
They're not.
Like it
hold up.
It's polygonal, but like it kind of holds up. Like I played it recently,
But it's
and
not too pointy.
it's still a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, I remember I bought it on Steam for like a couple bucks in college, and I just played it.
And I was really
both
worried
games
too, because I'm like, oh, what if this is just a nostalgia thing? Like, what if it really wasn't as good as I remember it? But I had just as much fun playing it 20 years later as I did 20 years ago or whatever, you know? Like, it's a really fun game. So the next game on my list I'm going to mention is Warframe.
And
you
so do love Warframe.
I do love Warframe. So Warframe is it's an MMO game too. You can play single player, you can play with other people, whatever.
Ryan plays by himself.
Generally, but I play with other people. I don't like talk to people, but you can just get into groups and do missions, and like you don't have to talk to people. But there's some harder. What I like to do, and this goes back to the challenge thing, is like I like to be able to try to do the hard stuff, and like any mission, I like to be able to know I can do it on my own, and then I can do it with other people.
So you don't have to rely on other people.
Partially because like, so the way Warframe does the grouping is they don't have designated servers themselves. It's all client side. So, and I get why they do that, because they don't want to have like the latency problems or whatever. but then that causes latency problems because some people's internet aren't good. So if they're the host, then it gets real janky, and like it can be hard because there's still some content that like some newer content that you kind of have to do with other people. And it can be frustrating to even just get into a group to do because there's a lot of drops and you get kicked out or whatever. So it's kind of frustrating sometimes. So for that reason alone, I'm like, if I could do it on my own, I'm just gonna do it on my own. But also, it's the challenge of like, can I do this on my own? Like, can I do these fights on my own? But it's a cool game. It's evolved so much. I've never seen a game evolve as much as Warframe has. When I first started playing it, I think they just hit the 10-year anniversary this year, and I think I started playing it within the first year it came out. And it's kind of the same game, but the mechanics were so different. Like you had like a stamina bar and the way and it's just, it would take too long for me to explain everything that's changed, but the game itself has just evolved so much in so many positive ways. Like the combat is a lot better, the storytelling is a lot better, they've gotten really into the lore, and it's just really cool. And I want to shout out the company who does it. They're called Digital Extremes, or DE. It's a Canadian based company, and they are so engaged with the community. Like they have live streams monthly talking about new content coming out, talking about bugs, talking about whatever. They have special like prime time, they call it, because in Warframe there are like better versions of stuff called prime stuff. So like you have your characters and then you have weapons, and the prime versions are kind of like upgraded versions that they release every few months. New prime stuff. So they have prime time featuring that stuff. And it's just like a really engaged company. I've never seen a company so engaged with the community, and they like listen to the community. Not to the extent that like if people have problems with something, they just automatically like cave in. They have a conversation about it. They're like, all right, we're going to try this thing. We want to hear your feedback on it. Like, you know, we're changing the way Melee works. We want to hear your feedback. This is what we have. This is what we're putting out. And then they get feedback, and they're like, okay, so this worked, we're going to keep this not so much, we're going to work on it.
So that's one of the things I do really like about League as well, is that Riot's really receptive to what players are enjoying and what they don't like.
Yeah.
And, like, if they get an overwhelming response on something, they act fast. Like, there's a new champion, Draggles?
I forget.
There's a new champion coming out, and he's a little dragon, but his face looked really weird. Like, it was original Sonic movie weird, where it was just like this human face on a dragon, and he's just like, hi, and he's like a little baby, but it was just creepy, and everybody and first of all, I don't get how this makes it through all your design processes and nobody sees this, but it's nice that when the whole community is basically saying, he looks creepy, they changed it so fast to make him look more dragon-like. And
Smolderon.
Smolder.
Smolderon's the Pokemon version.
Who's Draggles?
Draggles?
Yeah.
That was
I thought that was the name of a character. No. What's Tristana's little dragon?
Skipper.
What? Anyway, not important. But they do take feedback, and like, you know, they do get a lot of overwhelming like negative feedback for smaller things. Like when Zoe first came out, everybody's like, "Oh, she's so broken." She pretty much has one damage ability, and yes, she can hit you from far away, but she has to get pretty close to do that. But a lot of people complain so much that they eventually did nerf her a lot because they're like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
But
that was kind of a problem.
Wriggles. That's close.
That was kind of a problem Warframe did have for a while. Is like when there was feedback on, because like one thing that they do every year, which is really cool, is so like in the game there are different Warframes you can play as, which are basically your characters, and then there are weapons and stuff so you have a primary, you have a secondary, and then you have like melee weapons. So there's a bunch of customization, there's a lot of different options, which is really cool to find different stuff. But for the Warframes, what they do for the different characters is at the end of the year they release like analytics on like usage analytics, so they can see like which characters people use most, which characters people use least. And for a long time the community is like, okay, you have these characters that like their kits, their abilities and stuff, they just don't work, right? Like they're not good. There's one called Hydroid, which was like a pirate kind of theme one that was just really bad. Like you could use him on low level stuff, but that was kind of it. Like you can't scale him up. there is like a lot of the cool thing about the game is like if you like a character, you can generally use it. You might have a little more requirements, a little more work to put into it to like get it to a higher level, but there are some that are just so bad. And for a while, the kind of response was to nerf the good ones instead of buff the bad ones. And so that was a huge like discourse in the community. Is like, okay, you have characters like Mesa that's really good, like Protea, like all these characters that are really good. Why are you nerfing them when they're good and they work to get them down to a lower level instead of taking these characters like Hydroid or like Loki or like whatever that are terrible and reworking them? Because they do that sometimes. They'll take a character and they'll rework the kit.
You're right, it's the same.
Zephyr was one of the ones that originally was like, okay, she's like a wind-based kind of like avian one, which is now really freaking good because they reworked her. And so it's like you can do that. You can take a character and you can rework it and then boost them up instead of nerfing them. And so I think they've kind of gone back to a place of like, okay, we want to work on building stuff up, because they had a release update a few years ago where they reworked all the weapons, every weapon in the game, and they buffed everything. And it's like, that's cool, that's neat, because as the game gets harder and there's the ceiling gets higher, you need to bring everything up, right, in order to meet the new requirements. And so they did that, and I'm like, that's really cool that they are listening.
Yeah.
And they're trying to work, and they look at the data and like, okay, well, what can we do with this? How can we make this better? And not everything always works, and not everything people agree with. But one thing I like too is sometimes people are like, oh, this is terrible, and they're like, you know what, we're doing it. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're working on now. We can rework it later. So they don't just give in, but they listen.
Well, what's nice is the transparency, because you know most game companies probably do this stuff. But it's nice when they show you and they let you in, because you don't feel like they're just making these arbitrary decisions. You can understand it, and then kind of bridge the gap of developer versus gamer, and kind of create this community instead of just like, we're doing this thing. Yeah. Warframe has one of the cool, like, best communities I've seen. And like and it's not just the developers, they have like, you know, community managers and stuff like that are like every month there's live streams where it's just interacting with the community, showing what's coming up, what's new, what are your thoughts, what are we thinking about this, how do we want this to go, what's the next update, what's this, and so that's really cool. But so to keep going, because that was a long tangent. Yes. Another game I really like is called Tales of Vesperia. So there's a whole series of
it's a good series,
Japanese RPG games called the Tales series that all have Tales of something. And the first one I played, and still my favorite, I haven't played all of them, I played a few of them, but it's called Tales of Vesperia, which was for 360. And it was just a really cool game. I like RPGs. I like JRPGs too. Because again, single player, narrative driven. I like RPGs in general, like leveling up, getting new stuff, unlocking new places, exploring worlds. Like that's all my jam. And I just really like the story of Tales of Vesperia. It's a really cool story. There's a lot of really cool characters. There's a lot of cool twists. I remember playing it for the first time, and I got to this point where I thought was the end of the game. And that was only like the halfway point, and then the whole world opens up, and I'm like, oh dang, there's more. There's so much more. And it was so much fun, and there's like a lot of cool like side missions and side objectives and stuff you could do, and like the characters were really cool, and the story was really interesting. So that, and I played it recently, like in the last few years on Switch, because they ported it to Switch, because I think it was a 360 game, and it was really fun. Again, it was like Knights of the Old Republic, where it was just as fun several years later as it was the first time I played.
So a game I thought about while you were talking about that, I don't know exactly why, but I do want to give it a shout out, was It Takes Two, a game that we played together.
That's fun.
Because that was really
Nothing
fun.
Nothing to do with what I was talking about.
It made me think of it. I don't know why, but that was a really fun co-op game.
I wish done right. I wish there was more co-op games. That's why I like Lethal Company and Phasmophobia and stuff like that, because they're co-op games.
Because I just want to say about that game, whoever is like either the better gamer or wants to be more involved in what things are going on, play the female character. Because I played the guy, and you're just like the support. Yeah. Like, he got to fight a squirrel on an airplane.
It was.
And I just kind of stood there.
It was such a fun moment.
No, I steered the airplane while he fought the squirrel.
I literally paused the game to just have a giggle fit over the fact that this is so dumb, and I love everything about it.
That's awesome. Okay, so then the next one on my list, I'm gonna the Batman Arkham series.
Oh, that's a good.
particularly the first one, Arkham Asylum, and the second one, Arkham City. So, quick anecdote. I'm trying to keep this short, but Arkham Asylum was the first game in the series done by a company called Rocksteady, and maybe Crystal Dynamics, but maybe they came in right later. But this was a game, didn't even know existed, went to GameStop one day looking for something to do, saw Arkham Asylum on the wall, and I'm like, Batman's cool, this game looks cool, I guess I'll get it. I think it was even discounted. Freaking amazing game. Like, such a cool, like, the Batman game you want. Like, you go to Arkham Island and you have to like go after the Joker or whatever, and all hell breaks loose, obviously. And it's a game where it's kind of exploratory. It's a kind of open world pseudo in the sense that like sometimes you need different gadgets and stuff that you need to progress in the story in order to unlock different places. But there's just a lot to do. It was really cool. Arkham Asylum specifically was like kind of spooky too, because you're in Arkham Asylum and it's really freaking spooky. And Scarecrow was one of the main villains in that one, so it was kind of scary. And like, it was just such a cool game, and the combat was really fluid, and the adventure and like the puzzle solving was really cool. And there's a lot of like side quests that you have to like use your detective skills for. So it just felt like a really comprehensive Batman game. Mm-hmm. And the graphics were cool, and you had Kevin Conroy as Batman, who did the animated Batman voice. R.I.P. He passed away semi-recently. You had Mark Hamill as the Joker, which is the quintessential animated Joker. So it's just like, it felt like Batman the Animated Series in a video game done right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this game's awesome. And then the second one came out, Arkham City, which is now, you're not on an island, you're in a city. And you get to fly around. It's like everyone loves the Spider-Man games now, but like this was that before that. You know what I mean? And it was just so much fun. And you got to play as Catwoman too, which is really cool. And like they just like Knights of the Old Republic too. They kind of took everything that made the first one great and just expanded on it.
Mm. And then they made a third one.
They did, and it was called Arkham Origins, and it was okay.
Yeah. And isn't there an Arkham Knight?
Yeah, that was the fourth one. Which again was okay. Yeah. They included the Batmobile in that one, but it was so freaking janky and did not handle well.
Physics is so different.
It was just bad, and there was like some Riddler challenge because throughout all the games, like the Riddler's there, and he has like puzzles you have to solve, but also like little trophies everywhere that you can get through like puzzle solving generally or whatever. And there would be some Riddler challenges where you have to go like through this like obstacle course kind of with the Batmobile. One of the most frustrating experiences of my entire life.
Is it worse than Swoop Racing?
Yes. Yeah, because Swoop Racing, I have learned that's from Knights of the Old Republic. I've learned as an adult, it's not that hard because there's only a few mechanics. You just have to make sure you hit the boost pads, avoid the obstacles, and then when your heat gauge gets matched, you just hit A to release the heat, and you're fine. It's like there's only a few. Well, as a kid, it was really hard for us to understand, but as an adult, it's okay. But with the Batmobile,
everything is okay.
But with the Batmobile, it was just the controls were really janky. And it just, it was not fun to use. But the first two games were awesome. And then the last one I'm going to mention, well, I have some honorables, but we'll get through quick. So the last one, two games are kind of spiritual successors. Dark Souls 3
Love it.
And Elden Ring.
Love them.
Which, again, Elden Ring is not a true successor, but is the spiritual successors done by From Software. From Software games are notorious for being very difficult. You have the Dark Souls series, you have Demon Souls, you have Bloodborne. You have Sekiro, which is the only game I've quit, basically, because I just was not good enough to play it, and then Elden Ring. And Dark Souls 3 was revolutionary for me. I saw the Game Grumps play it, and I'm like, this game looks cool, and it's really cool. It's fantasy-themed, like medieval fantasy-themed. It's an RPG, so like, but you can build your character kind of however you want. You explore, you fight enemies, you fight bosses. There's a whole story, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
To the point that even the most basic enemy will kill you if you are not paying attention. And I love the challenge of that. And I love the challenge of the bosses, and I'm trying to figure stuff out. And then Elden Ring just takes that and expands it again to even bigger and better. And I love Elden Ring so much. It's such a fun game. It's such a fun world. I love the building, like you were talking about with League, like building things and finding the mechanics and like the mechanics of the boss fights, mechanics of the basic enemies, like what attacks you have to dodge, how do you dodge them, can you block this, do you block this, when you attack, like I love figuring that out. Beating a boss is such a big accomplishment and it feels so good. Beating the game feels good. Like I love Elden Ring. I could play it forever.
So these are our favorite ways to get dopamine.
And I think the thing is too is like it's a good balance, because there are some times when I play Dark Souls and even Elden Ring where I just had to put it down and I just had to not touch it for a while because there's a boss I couldn't beat. Dark Souls 3 particularly was in the second DLC, the Ring City, and it was did you ever play Dark Souls 3?
I did.
Did you play the DLC?
Yeah, I did, but I played it once and never again, so I don't remember.
Okay, I only remember this one because it was the dragon boss. There's like a dragon boss, like
notorious.
Miter the Dark Eater or whatever.
The one in the giant catacombs or
whatever.
whatever.
You like fall down.
Yeah.
And I could not freaking beat him. And I was like looking up strategies, and the strategy was to play like a wizard character, which I did not play. I go dex build, and I use katanas and bows for range, and that's how I do things. But you do a wizard build, and you go invisible, and you use the poison mist, and it just eats them up. And I even tried that. I even respected and tried it. Still would just die all the time. And no matter what I did, I could not beat this boss. I stopped playing for like a year. I went back, and then I beat it.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me of like so I took one class in college as part of my computer science program, and it was how to make video games, right? I didn't really learn anything in that class, but I did enjoy the first half of the class where it was more like the theory of making a video game and how to make a good game.
Yeah.
And like one of the cornerstones was like you want to make it challenging because that's why people play and engage, but you don't make it too challenging that people will turn it off because they just don't want to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel worth it. And that's just like
and that's what a lot of people don't like from software games, because they are really hard. Like they're very difficult games, and that's something that I enjoyed about it, because I enjoyed the challenge of it and kind of the stress of it. Like when you're just exploring and like you're finding enemies and your health flasks are getting real low, and you're like, God, I gotta find a bonfire. I gotta find something to hit, because that's how you heal up. You go to a bonfire, but it's the mechanic of like when you rest to heal up, all the enemies respawn. So like there's the whole mechanic of like it's a risk assessment, right? Like, do I keep going and keep exploring, or do I reset everything and the enemies come back and then I have to find my way back? And then if you die, then all the enemies reset and your experience points that you get are left at where you died. So then you have to make your way back there, or if you fight a boss, usually they're on the boss and you have to go back in. But so like, it's a risk assessment thing, and it's just, those games are fun to me, and I love the challenge of it, and then again, overcoming that challenge is so much fun.
Well, I think that is a good point to stop.
Wait, I just want to mention one honorable mention, because we've already talked about the rest. So we talked about Pokemon, Super Mario World, Mega Man. There's one game I want to mention. You guys are probably going to know this. It's a Wii game. It's called Muramasa Demon Blade. Did you ever play that, Josh? I know you did it, even though we had it, because it was single player.
Is that the one where you play as
beat all the single player games, and then I'd be like, eh.
You could play them yourself.
It never interested me after that point.
Is that the one where you play as different characters from like Chinese mythology or whatever?
No, so that might be Dynasty Warriors.
I might be thinking of Dynasty.
But so Muramasa Demon Blade was this game for the Wii. There was two protagonists, which what made me think of it, because you mentioned a game like that. A male and a female that both had slightly different stories. It was this stylized game that was like cel shaded and very artsy. It was a side scroller kind of action exploratory game that had different levels and different stuff to do, but it was like based on Japanese folklore. And so the point is you fight enemies, and they're all like yokai creatures and stuff from Japanese folklore, and there's this whole story around it. But it was really fun. It was really stylized, and the exploration parts of it, and fighting the enemies and fighting the bosses and all that kind of stuff, it was so cool, and it was so unique. I've never seen another game like it, and I want Nintendo, if you're listening out there, because I know you watch this, please port it to the Switch so I can play it again, or remaster it, or make a second one. Because I know not a lot of people know that game, but it was awesome. So, anyway.
So this is a good point to cut off.
It's probably been a really long time.
So as you all know, we have just a little bit to say about video games.
Just a little bit.
I'm sure we can stretch it for another episode at
4
a later
hours
date.
at least.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. But I think for now, that was our top.
Let us know your favorite video games in the comments down below.
Yeah, maybe
your favorite video games and why is it The Lion King?
So it is time.
Purple, Jello,
Lakers colors.
Orange.
That's not what it is.
You took them all. So we have 1 yellow.
Oh my god.
1 orange.
Oh man, there's a lot of purple.
2 green.
Uh-huh.
And 4 purple.
Brian
is our king.
Oh my god.
And I have finally lost.
Did you finally do it?
Like
Legitimately?
Yeah,
Yeah.
legitimate lose.
Yeah.
I have slayed the king.
And now it's my turn.
Which I also just want to mention in case anyone out there played Dark Souls 3. So one of the hardest bosses in the game is this guy called the Nameless King, and he comes in. Do you remember him, Josh?
I do.
Comes in on a dragon. You have
It
to
was the
basically
most
kill the dragon,
cinematic.
and then you have to fight him, and he's really hard. So can I tell you how I beat him?
Did you corner him or something?
No, I would run to one side of the map. I would shoot arrows at him, and then when he got close, I'd run around him to the other side of the map and shoot arrows at him because I could not beat him legitimately.
Coward.
Dude, you play it.
You would love that
Look,
game. You would get frustrated.
We
You
may
would.
launch a gaming channel. We will play all these games. Anything you recommend as well. We want to hear about your favorite games.
Josh did say he wants to do a game channel.
Please like, follow, subscribe, push that bell for notifications. We release new podcasts every Tuesday at 10 a.m. PST.
Do whatever
we'll
you
see
do
you
on
there.
Spotify to follow, because I don't know what you do with that. But I'm sure you know.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, that was how long?